Alright guys, I fixed the audio, I think. Let me know if there's still an issue. Before I start, the All Things Mail Pod will be live today, January 4th at 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be me, Perv, and Hank on our podcast. I'm supposed to be monthly, but I think it's been at least 3 to 4 months since our last one. We'll work on that, but you might be interested. If not, oh well, I'll still be here. You can catch the live, or you can catch the replay afterwards. I'm going to make clips out of it too. So let's get into today's discussion, and let me pull it up. We're just going to read through it, and I will react to along the way. I have pumped religiously for over a year and a half. I don't even have a tenth an inch of girth gains to show for it, let alone length gains. I wonder why. Sorry. Every day, 3 sets of 7, 10 to 15 HGs at its peak. Have changed to interval pumping as of 5 months ago, and again, fucking nothing. 10 to 15 HG 2-minute sets 10 times. Then was compression hanging for 5 months, got up to 20-pound sessions going for an hour or more, 20-minute sets, but again, no fucking gains. Okay, so let's break this down. Every day, 3 sets of 7, 10 to 15 HG at its peak. For reference, I have been doing PE for over a decade. I have pumped for over half my PE career. I barely get over 10 HG most sessions. I do not pump every day. And as we go down to interval pumping, same idea, 10 to 15 HG. Reminder, at his peak, he was doing 50% more work than what I do, and he has less than an eighth of my experience with penis enlargement. So that's one of the major issues. And then we went to compression hanging for 5 months, got up to 20 pounds. If you follow Ben's protocol, I think it would take longer than that to get to 20 pounds, like of the entire length of the session. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. Going for an hour or more, 20-minute sets, I'm assuming every day, as he laid out up here. So he fell into the trap of more work would lead to more gains. And like, let's just think about this. If we're having issues expanding, we are going to have issues with more and more pressure. From my experience, as soon as I get above about, let's say 11 HG, I get a lot of edema. So I'm assuming everything that he has received in the past, I don't know, 6 to 8 months has been nothing but edema, which is not what causes the gains. It's the stretching of the tunica albuginea. The edema is going to limit how much the tunica albuginea can stretch, and all that pressure inside the tunica albuginea, if it's not able to stretch, is going to make it just get much, much stronger rather than longer and bigger. So, any of you new guys watching this video, really take the progressive overload slowly. Now, talking about the male hanger, it's a great device. I just don't agree with Ben's given progressive overload. Most of the science shows that the progressive overload stress adaptation response is much slower in collagenous tissues than we think. And the only way we really cause it is by causing this like cyclical weight as they do with the typical male hanger protocol. It works, I just don't think it is as efficient as it could be. And then I've just seen a lot of guys have issues once they get to higher weights that they kind of hit this wall that they're going to either need a lot more weight or we're going to need to completely rework their routine, potentially take 6 months off. Back to the post. I even tried vigor and vitality, but you guessed it, fucking nothing. Well, yeah, it is not for penis enlargement. It is for blood flow and testosterone production, which in proxy could help with penis enlargement, but as you can see, your routine was quite frankly shit, and that's the reason why you did not gain. Anyway, I do feel for him. It's just, I see this so often, not so often anymore, but like when I first started PE, I would see just so much work being done with very little gains to come of it. I was the same way until I started doing my own thing. Now I've tried extending, but frankly, I'm ready to throw in the towel. I feel like I've wasted all this time for nothing. Not gonna lie, kinda. Have sacrificed the gym. PE should never become before fitness. I'm slim as it is, no concerns on weight. The time going out tens of hours on the subreddit in PE YouTube. This is the part that bugs me, and other life opportunities all for fucking nothing. Someone please make sense of this. That's what I'm here for, because I'm fucking livid. You should be, but you should be more mad at yourself than anyone else. I literally couldn't be more dedicated, and this is where I'm at. So let's first talk about the psychology a bit, because this goes so misunderstood. And one of my favorite authors, Ryan Holiday, calls this the willful will. If you get so short-sighted on a goal, that's all you can focus on, you will actually hurt yourself in the process because you're not able to see easier solutions. So if you have the idea in your brain that the more work you do is what's actually going to lead to gains, rather than smart application of the science that will make it easier to get these gains, you will not gain, or it'll be a much harder battle. So then, if we're constantly worrying about, this is like the biological sense, by the way, if we are constantly worrying about gaining, we are setting up a sympathetic response to penis enlargement. So a little bit of biology, you have two modes of work in the nervous system. So you have your parasympathetic response and then your sympathetic response. Your sympathetic response is reactive to its environment. So that's going to be like your fight or flight response, and your working response is going to cause your connective tissues to stiffen up, and that's going to make it harder for them to be pulled apart and give like your muscles something to actually work against for leverage. The parasympathetic response is the relaxation response, so it's what you do when you're eating, fucking, sleeping, resting, and recovering. If we're trying to stretch our penis out as much as possible, we want to be in the parasympathetic state, just because it's going to be much easier to stretch said tissues, because it's not going to be fighting us in that point. So if you are worrying about PE constantly, making it a negative adaptation in your like psychology, you'll eventually develop a sympathetic response with PE. And speaking from experience, and this is just for me getting in little tiffs on Reddit, when I would have tiffs on Reddit while doing PE, sympathetic response, contraction, more edema, less, just not a good session. So like my recommendations, let's go through it, was first, he needs to take 6 months off. You need to drop the weight, as in how much load he is using. You need to stop worrying about it as much, as because it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the explanation I just gave about the parasympathetic versus sympathetic response is the reason why, in a biological sense. But we could bring that into goal setting too. There's a few reasons why you got to kind of detach yourself from the end results. And a lot of guys don't really understand what I'm saying about this. If you're so focused on the goal, I've already went through this part, but it was just like yesterday I got a comment on one of the YouTube videos. It's like, you're already over 6. You don't know what it's like to not be beyond the goalpost. And I'm like, well, yeah, I do, because my goalpost was much higher than 6, and that's all I could ever think about. And then it slowed down my process because I was so overworking my tissues because of my intent. So trust me, guys, I get the want to do more work, but like everything I've seen and in my own experience, less is so much more when it comes to penis enlargement. Now, another thing that brings up the parasympathetic response, and we talked about him yesterday. One of my clients started taking weed cookies, like, pot brownies, before his session. It is legal in his state. He was a worrywart. I'm pretty sure he has an anxiety issue that's undiagnosed. Sorry, dude, but that's what it seems like. I've had anxiety. You are very typical for anxiety sufferers. Once he started taking weed, his sympathetic system was able to shut down, and he was finally able to elongate in less than an hour, which was a huge compliment. This was a huge, this is a huge accomplishment for me as a coach and for him as the practitioner. I'm not saying you need weed, but if you just take, 10 to 15 minutes to chill the fuck out, whether it be through meditation, getting off your cell phone, relaxing your brain, focusing on the relaxation, so hot bath, hot shower, relax a bit afterwards, and then do PE, it's going to be just much easier because your body is going to be then working with you. It's really not complicated. It's like putting yourself in the zone for PE. Like in the gym, you want to be all hyped up. For PE, you don't want to be all hyped up. So there's actually an argument that you don't even want to be doing PE around your gym session because that sympathetic response is going to overlap with your PE parasympathetic response. So that's something we got to talk about later, though. So my recommendations for this guy, where obviously you need to lose the strength adaptation, you need to get out of your own fucking head, and you need to drop the weight. So let's talk about ways he can get around this strengthening. Let's talk about a few ways he can get around this strengthening adaptation. And my new mod, Carl, who also made an appearance on this YouTube already, can talk about it. Or I'm going to go through his bullet points and then give my opinion. So he said, have you tried heat? The individual answered yes. Have you tried tuna scraping? The individual answered yes, but not consistently. Has he tried tunica massage? No. Has he tried semi-erect bends? No. Bundled hanging? No. Fulcrum hanging? Yes. And he does not track strain, and besides with the amount of edema he was getting, he would not be able to track strain just because it would have just been such a huge issue. So first thing is the heat will help relax the nervous system and more importantly relax the collagen tissues, start to denature them to make them easier to stretch. The tunica scraping would help him break down the hard fibrils that we develop and irregular collagen buildup that we have. This would be with a gua sha blade. We got to be a little more hardcore with how hard his tunica potentially is. And then 5 minutes of BFR massage will break apart the tunica albuginea enough for his penis to expand or elongate at relatively normal pressures. So let's go through like a routine, and you guys are welcome to copy this. Heat warm up 5 minutes, 50 tunica scrapes each side. 5 minutes BFR massage, 10 1-minute sets of fatigue, hanging, extending, or stretching, whatever you're going to do. 4 5-minute sets of hanging, stretching, or extending, whatever you were planning. And then interval pumping, 5 sets, 2 minutes of interval pumping. So that would be 10 minutes total. We are going to do the actual elongation and expansion work every other day. We are going to do the tunica release stuff every day because his tissue is so thick and dense at this point, he needs that extra work. After about 6 to 8 weeks, he can probably cut that back down to about... There was one other comment that really... that just triggered me. Hey mate, I've been seeing a bit of gains. Most of the gains have come randomly as fuck when I have been doing high intensity stuff. Do you feel discomfort and pain when doing PE? When pumping, I pump to pressures that cause mild pain. And this is where I lost at the first take. Also, with stretching, no pain, no gain. I also pump up to 15 Hg as a warm-up and up to 25 Hg, but I build up to this time of progressive overload. Okay, so let's wrap this up with just talking about how stupid this is, okay? Now, I'm not saying some people are not going to need higher pressures to gain, but as someone who has done PE for a decade and has worked up to 10 Hg, doing 50% more work than the guy that's been doing this for like a third of his life, his entire adult life. This is a good way to put it. My entire adult life, I've been doing PE, and I still only pump up to 10 Hg. Not saying this, I don't know how long this guy's been doing it, but 25 Hg is like tire pressure level of pressure. Hg, inches of mercury. Sorry, Hank. So most of my gains are because of the smart applications on top of the practical work. So like the tunica release is the reason why I'm able to gain with so little pressure, even though I'm so far progressed of like say tissue strength down there. Some people are going to be that tight right off the bat, especially if they start with that much work right off the bat. So just take this as a warning as to you new guys. Doing that much work is just going to lead to so much stress on your tissues. You're not really going to gain. If you do gain, it's going to be fibrosis rather than actual tissue buildup, like the working tissues. You do not want to be feeling any pain. Some sessions are intense for me, but like what it really feels like is like, wow, this is a good stretch. Not like, wow, this fucking hurts, you know? So please, guys, do not let pain be what you're chasing. No pain, no gain is bullshit. There's like research that shows it in weightlifting too. It's about stimulus to fatigue. What you're feeling with pain is a whole bunch of fatigue. And that's not necessarily what causes muscle growth. It's the stimulus of the cells. That's exactly what the same thing with penis enlargement, except we need to be in the parasympathetic state to be seeing these gains. So, I don't think this take was nearly as fun as the first take I did, but I was having microphone issues. Go figure. But I think I got my point across. That routine, go ahead and try it. Original poster or anyone else that's struggling to gain. Most important thing, though, right now is to take 6 to 8 months off, completely lose that strength adaptation, come back from square one, and build it up. Also, listen to what I say when I talk about tunica release. It's not always going to be more work. It's the practical application of the work. So, use physiotherapy to your advantage. Try these add-in stuff religiously. It's going to make a huge difference in your routine. I have not done them. Even though it was like I might have done a little bit, it helped tremendously with just a little bit I did. So like if you do 10 to 15 minutes of it before your session, you're going to be on the right path. Sorry to ramble a bit at the end, so forgive me, guys. I will see you in the next one. Remember, All Things Male is tonight. Today is January 4th, 2024.